is a precursor to uh, the whole section on Vedic cosmology. So, as usual, Sukdev Goswami and Acharyas, they approach with a mood of uh, 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 humility, of glorification. So Sukdev Goswami does not really want to say, okay, let us discuss cosmology because it's interesting and fascinating. Um, he's a Paramahamsa. Speaking to another Paramahamsa, surrounded by great devotees, who's only interested in Krishna consciousness. So the only reason that he speaks about this is because it's in relationship with Krishna, which is why the same thing to the whole Vedic cosmology is prayers by the residents of Jammu, and that will give lead into the structure of Jammu, the structure of Bhumandal, the structure of the universe, the movement of planets. So it kind of leads into that. The underlying point that is being made is that the universe, with all its vastness, with all its complexity, uh, is united by one thing. That is, that everywhere the Lord is being worshipped. And so that's the essential point that he makes. That he goes to various parts of the universe, the movement, not the entire, the movement. He goes to the various parts of the movement, and everywhere there is the Lord in some form being worshipped. And while he's going to the various parts of the universe, he starts describing what's this island is over here, this is divided by this ocean, etc., etc. So that kind of goes in. Now the Acharyas also say that one of the reasons why the Bhagavatam speaks about this. I mean, this is of course one of the top 10 topics in the Puranas. And the reason is there is to increase faith in those who are more empirical by nature. So when they say that, when they see that the Bhagavatam is speaking about that which they can either empirically observe or extrapolate, then the words of the Bhagavatam carry more gravity. The other way, rather, the words, they carry more gravity. So we are going to resume from where we stopped. So just a recap, the the chapter is divided in prayers to the, so the Jambudvip is like an island divided varshas. Varshas are essentially valleys. That so there are there are the mountains, and there are the 9 varshas, and within there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so there are 9 varshas, and each of the 9 varshas are described in relationship to the form of the Lord that is being worshipped over there, and the nature of the prayers that we pray. And so we are going to be resuming from verse 13 of here. Hare Sakshat Bhagavan Sharina Atma Jasana Ivato Prayamipsitam Hitvam Satam Yadi Satchate Grahe Tada Mahitvam Vaya Sadam Pakana. Sai Prabhu, if you have the translation, could you read it?
Yes. Just as aquatics always desire to remain in the vast mass of water, all conditioned living entities naturally desire to remain in the vast existence of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if someone very great by material calculation fails to to take shelter of the Supreme Soul, but instead becomes attached to material household life, his greatness is like that of a young, low-class couple. One who is too attached to the material life loses all good spiritual qualities.
So, uh, uh, this essentially is part of the prayers by by the residents of Harivarsha to Lord Narasimha, right? And this is actually the the concluding two verses of the prayers. So in the in the previous verse, uh, uh, the the exalted qualities were were glorified. Here, through analogies, the other kind of qualities are given. So the example that is given is that the attraction between a young couple, it is primarily because of their youth, right? So this is an empirical observation because we know that when when a man and woman come together uh, in as youth, then their attraction to each other is much more than if you fast forward 25 years and they've been married for 25 years. Then the nature of the attraction is different. Maybe there is more respect, maybe there is more uh, concern and compassion, more love for each other, but that strong binding attraction that binds the youth couple, that 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 dissolves. So what does that prove? It proves that that attraction is actually a quality of of youthfulness. It's not a quality that is intrinsic in the man and woman. If it was intrinsic in the man and woman, it would have stayed even when they stop being young. But the fact that it does not means it's not intrinsic in them. It is intrinsic for the youth, which is proven by the fact that the youth goes away, the youthfulness goes away, that quality also uh, goes away. So this verse is talking using this analogy to talk about those who are pious, but they are not devotional. So because of the piety is actions done in the mode of goodness, activities done as enjoined by the scriptures, karmkanda. So because of piety, they may experience opulence or satisfaction or fame, but it will be temporary. So eventually it will just go away, just like the the attraction of a young couple fades away when the youth fades away. Similarly, material happiness fades away when piety fades. So as long as there is piety, there will be some material happiness, some material opulence. But as soon as that piety fades, and how would it fade away? Because one is uh, it is coming from a material platform, and everything that is material changes. And the second is that uh, the nature of this enjoyment is that it actually takes away. So what you get from piety, you take away in your enjoyment. The benefits that you get, you cash from there in terms of your enjoyment. And in the process of enjoyment, maintaining piety is difficult. So then piety goes away. So the verse talks about a materialist who's too absorbed in sensual enjoyment and will experience misery and frustration. Another analogy that is given is that of fish and water. That the natural position of the fish is in water, and that is the only place that it can be happy. Any other position it will be unhealthy. You put the fish in wine, you put the fish in milk or yogurt, or you would think that these are better than water, put the fish in ghee, take the fish out of water and say that the water is too wet, now be dry, but the fish will die. So the jiva's natural position is there may be other positions that might superficially look more enticing. That a materialist may be experiencing more material offerings, so the devotee might think he's better off. Or somebody might be experiencing fame, or somebody might be experiencing um, uh, um, the benefits of being jnani and knowledgeable. And the devotee might think, oh, this person is world famous, he is rich, etc. But this is all examples of fish being in anything other than. They may look superficially more appealing, but it's not the natural position of the fish. So Srila Prabhupada concludes in the purport that everyone should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Soul, the source of all living entities. No one should waste his time in the so-called happiness of materialistic household. In the Vedic civilization, this type of crippled life is only allowed until one's 50th year, when one must give up family life and enter into the order of Vanaprastha or Sannyasa. So Prabhupada makes this, I don't know if you've noticed that there is this bit of tension between what Prabhupada sometimes writes and sometimes preached, right? Because Prabhupada often uh, condemned Vanaprastha, saying, what's the point in Vanaprastha? That you're going from one stage to another, you're not equipped, you're just moving from stages, at the most you're getting material opulence. In fact, in ISKCON, um, uh, Vanaprastha was, for a while, it was considered to be a bad word. That people are going to Vanaprastha more for material reasons. And then you see in purports like this, where Prabhupada is strongly uh, supporting Vanaprastha. So, wanted to just hear from you, how do you feel that these two perspectives can be reconciled? Yes, Paramatma Prabhu, any thoughts from you?
Hare Krishna. The song is really a very poor quality. It's just broken up and uh, um, uh, can't follow the flow so clearly.
Okay. No worries. I understand. Okay. Maybe it's too soon to ask the question. We're catching up after a while. So there are of course different ways to reconcile it, but one way that I personally reconcile it is that Prabhupada was not in favor of uh, uh, the 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 karma varnashram. So varnashram is of three kinds. There's karma ashrit, jnana ashrit, and there is devi varnashram, that is bhakti ashram. So karma varnashram is more based on, like everything in karma kanda, is geared towards uh, uh, increasing your piety And in the final stages, it's basically to assure a better good, whether it's going to the heavenly planets or taking birth in a more opulent setting. But that's what Karma Varnashram is. Gyan Varnashram is more geared towards mukti, towards liberation, typically towards Brahman liberation. And the majority of the Vedas essentially talk about uh, either karma or jnana, ashram, varnashram, mostly karma, varnashram. And that's something that Srila Prabhupada openly condemns. Just like he condemned Karma Kand, even though it's from the Vedas, but he condemned it because for the same reason that Krishna condemns, that the benefits are temporary, comes and goes, and you're essentially trading one prison for another. But when he speaks over here in these verses, then Prabhupada is essentially, he is promoting Devi Bhakti. And so when he says that one should finally retire at the age of 50, then retire and do what? Do preaching, do more study of the scriptures, increase one's absorption in Bhakti. So typically, Srila Prabhupada in verses which are kind of placing bhakti and karma next to one another. And when he glorifies Varnashram, then he's glorifying it in the context of the as one proceeds through life. And this is Prabhupada's practical preaching also. He will preach this way also. He did that in his own life, that when he reached a certain point, then gave up his family, gave up his business. But then what did he do? Right? He went to Vrindavan, he started writing, he started distributing back to Godhead. That's the Devi Varnashram. Because strictly speaking, a sannyasi should not do a lot of things that Prabhupada did. Right? The sannyasi should not travel, should not cross the seas. Sannyasi should not accumulate wealth. A sannyasi should live in poverty, should live in isolation, should not associate in any way with the opposite sex. All that Prabhupada do, right? He traveled around the world 11 times. He was managing enormous amounts of wealth. At one point he was managing millions of dollars a month. And this was back in the 70s. Completely involved in brick and mortar affairs, negotiating contracts, acquiring land, while being a sannyasi. Right. So what is that? That is Devi. But that is him uh, uh, being completely detached by offering everything in the service of Krishna. Okay. So let's move on to the next verse, 14.
Prabhu, excuse me 1 minute. Maybe can you try your headphone because your voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking. I see.
Just like last Friday, Prabhuji, it was not.
Yeah. If you give me 1 minute, let me get my earphone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu, is better.
Oh, so much better.
Better, thank you. Maybe I'll just do this all the time because this is becoming more chronic. Okay, so let's move on to verse 14. Tasmad rajo ragavishad manyu manaspara bhayada indriyadimulam etvagraham samskriti chakravalam Narsimhapadam bhujata 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 kuto bhimiti.
Therefore, O demon, give up the so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev, which are the actual shelter of fearlessness. Entanglement in family life is a root cause of material attachment, indefatigable desire, moroseness, anger, despair, fear, and the desire for false prestige, all of which result in the repetition of birth and death.
So this is the last verse in the prayer. So Prahlad Maharaj starts with Tasmad, right? So Tasmad means therefore, and therefore it kind of indicates that Prahlad Maharaj came up with a certain logic and now he's concluding. So this is the concluding verse. So these are the instructions given by Prahlad Maharaj to the Asuras, and the summary of the prayers in form of the instructions. So what he's saying, that give up the so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev. Right. So the point that he has made in the previous verses is that the root cause of all the evil is the entanglement in the family affairs, and it is a result of so many kinds of misery. And then on the other hand, the root cause of all the happiness, genuine happiness, is taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. Right. So he's presenting with two distinct opposite root causes. Root cause of all misery is attachment to family. Root cause of all happiness is attachment to Krishna. Here he says Narsimhadev, same as Krishna. In the seventh canto, there is also the famous prayers by Prahlad Maharaj, where he speaks more eloquently and elaborately. And there he says that similar theme, that one may possess wealth and aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. Right. So if you look at the list and you categorize it, it comes in, and one may have either physical powers, one may have mental powers, or one may have good fate, like aristocratic family, etc. But then he says that I think even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. Right? So, so instruction by a pure devotee on pure devotional service. Okay, so that is the end of the prayers by Prahlad Maharaj to Narsingadev. So the next verse is in prose, so we can just read the translation.
Sukadev Goswami continued. In the tract of land called Ketumala Varsha, Lord Vishnu lived in the form of Kamadev, only for the satisfaction of his devotee. These include Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, the Prajapati, Samvatsara, and all the Samvatsara son and daughter. The daughters of Prajapati are considered the controlling deities of the night, and his sons are considered the controllers of the day. The Prajapati's offspring numbers 36,000, one of each day of each night in the lifetime of a human being. At the end of each year, the Prajapati's daughter become very agitated upon seeing the extremely effulgent disk of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus they all suffer miscarriages.
So now the praise has moved to to um, um, to Ketumal verse, and the residents are worshipping the Lord in the form of Cupid, Kamadev, not the material Cupid, but the spiritual Cupid. So in Ketumala verse, Lakshmi Devi is accompanied by Samvatsara, along with his 36,000 sons and daughters, and they collectively worship Kamadev. Right. So the Lord is residing as Kamadev in Ketumal. So Kamadev refers to one who plays. So Deva, Divyati for Deva, so one who plays. Now, as Prabhupada explains in the verse, that Prajapati Samvatsar refers to 1 year. So in other words, he is the presiding deity for the year, right? And Purushayusha refers to the lifetime of a human being, which is 100 years. So that's how you come with the offsprings of 36,000. So the year is considered to be 360 days. So not 365, but 360, 12 months of 30 days each. And 100 years is 36,000. So the daughters of Prajapati are the controlling deity for night, and the sons of Prajapati are the controlling deities of day. So that's why it said that she has 36,000 sons and 36,000 daughters, because there are as many nights and days in the life of a person. So because the daughters or the nights act as the cause of enjoyment of your karma, of your activity, they are called the fetus of the daughter, right? So it's a little bit of, I think, Vishnu Chakravarti gives it a little bit of a technical explanation. So the fetus refers to the time in minutes or seconds, or it refers to prarabdha karma of the inhabitants enjoying in the land. Because nighttime is considered to be the mother of enjoyment. Now, one might say that there's so much enjoyment during the day, but I mean the general theme in Bhagavatam is that maithunya, that sexual enjoyment is the root of the desires for all other enjoyments, and that is associated with night, and it is so the fetus, the child of the night is this enjoyment, which is also equated to prarabdha karma, because everything that you're either enjoying or suffering is a result of the karma that is manifesting at the time, right? So let's put it together to understand the analogy. So the prayers to Kamadev is that the human beings, they're living for 100 years, and based on their karma, they are enjoying. It doesn't speak about suffering. It says they're enjoying materially. They're enjoying, but all that enjoyment comes to an end when the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord manifests. Right? So, what is the Sudarshan Chakra? What does that represent of the Lord? That represents time. So, with the course of time, all the enjoyment comes to an end. So, when it says that the daughters suffer miscarriages, that means the fetus is abort, and the fetus is representing enjoyment. That means that enjoyment now turns to suffering. And this is something that maybe we are not that old to experience it, but we see that around us. Many of the old people will say that nighttime is very difficult because they fear being alone, they fear to die alone, they fear like as one grows old, then what's it called? Insomnia becomes more prevalent. Very difficult to fall asleep. So they lie in bed, awake. The body is full of pains and aches. So during the days they are somehow busy or occupied, or there is some comfort in the family around. But at night they're all alone with their pains and aches. So that is compared to the fetus aborting. That all that enjoyment that was there when as young people they were enjoying, that enjoyment is now gone. Right. So as time goes on, the material enjoyment turns to suffering. Srila Prabhupada also talks a little bit about the position of Kamadev. So he said, this Kamadev, who appears as Krishna's son named Pradyumna, is Vishnu Tattva. How this is so is explained by Madhavacharya, who quotes from Brahman Puran. Kamadev Sitam Vishnum Upasate. Although this Kamadev is Vishnu Tattva, his body is not spiritual but material. Lord Vishnu as Pradyumna or Kamadev accepts a material body, but he still acts spiritually. It does not make any difference whether he accepts a spiritual or a material body. He can act spiritually in any condition of existence. Mayavadi philosophies regard even Lord Krishna's body as material, but their opinions cannot impede the spiritual activity of the Lord. Okay, so we move on to the next verse, verse 16.
In Ketumala Vansa, Lord Kamadev, Pradyumna, move very graciously. His smile is very beautiful, and when he increases the beauty of his face by slightly raising his eyebrow and glancing playfully, he pleases the goddess of fortune. Thus he enjoys his transcendental senses.
So this verse is talking about how Lord Kamadev, Lord Pradyumna, he enjoys his transcendental senses by these actions related to Lakshmi Devi. Like he's moving graciously with a mild smile. Pradyumna was considered to be extremely beautiful. He was almost like Krishna. It's mentioned that sometimes in Nectar Devotion, it's mentioned that sometimes Krishna's wives would become shy on seeing Pradyumna because he looked so much like Krishna there. So in relationship to Lakshmi Devi, right? So smiling, raising his eyebrows, glancing at her. So he's pleasing the goddess of fortune, and he's also enjoying his transcendental senses. Okay, moving on, verse 17.
Accompanied during the daytime by the sons of Prajapati, the predominating deities of the day, and accompanied at night by his daughters, the deities of the night. Lakshmi Devi worships the Lord during the period known as the Samvatsara, in his most merciful form as Kamadev. Fully absorbed in devotional service, he chants the following mantras.
So, Vishwanath Chakravarti, in commenting on this verse, he says that the sons and the daughters of Samvatsara are also married to each other. And combining together, they produce the fetus of karmic enjoyment that is experienced over time. Right, and that was essentially the previous verse. And by the influence of time, the same time that is enabling the fetus, the enjoyment to be produced, the same time also is the cause of their miscarriage, that the fetus to be aborted. This verse now talks about the opposite situation. Right? The previous verse was talking about how the days and nights are being used for sensual enjoyment. What this verse talks about is how the days and nights are used in the worship of the Lord under the supervision of a pure devotee. Right? So what happens is that so the verse says that the sons of the Prajapati accompanied by the daughters, right, accompany Lakshmi Devi in worshipping the Lord. So this is the situation of a devotee, where the same day, the same night that were initially acting in a certain way are now acting in a different way. And then the result is completely different. So previously they were seeing the Lord as the Kal Chakra. So they were seeing the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord. Now they are seeing the Lord as Pradyumna. So Tat Bhakta Mayamayam. So they see the Lord with his pleasing smile, and the Lord actually trying to please them. Right? So this is the position of devotees. So like it is mentioned that when the head of the family, so let's assume the head of the family wins a lottery, right? So the whole family benefits from it. Everybody gets money because of it, right? So here it is mentioned that the Lord is very kindly disposed to Lakshmi Devi. Prem Kishore Prabhu, you may want to mute yourself. So here it is mentioned that very kindly disposed to Lakshmi Devi. So automatically it means that kindly disposed to all the followers of Lakshmi Devi. So what else? So as for Vishwanath Chakravarti, the word Maya can have different meanings depending on the context, right? So typically it is used to refer to ignorance. But in this phrase, Tat Bhagavato Mayamayam, Mayamayam refers to the most merciful form of the Lord. So Jiva Goswami writes that Mayamayam, this is Prabhupada's purport, can also mean Kripa Prashuram, deeply merciful. And Srila Veera Raghav says, Maya Prachuranatmya Sankalpena. There's some more Sanskrit after that, which means that when one is very affectionate due to an intimate relationship, one is described as Maya Maya. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains Maya by dividing it into words Maya and Amaya. He explained that these words to indicate that because the living entity is covered by the disease of illusion, the Lord is always eager to deliver his devotees from the clutches of Maya and cure him of the disease caused by the illusory energy. So when it is said Tat Bhagavato Maya Mayam, so what is the sons and daughters of Samvatsara looking at the Lord as Maya Mayam? And Vishwanath Chakravarti says Maya Mayam is the Lord in his most merciful form. And how is that mercy manifesting? In terms of the Lord taking away the illusory effect of Maya and replacing it with real Maya. Because the nature of Jiva is always under Maya. He is under Mahamaya or Yoga Maya. One of the two is there. But Maya Mayam is taking away the illusory energy and replacing it with the real perception. Okay, so let's go on to the next verse.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ishtikesha, the controller of all my senses and the origin of everything. As the Supreme Master of all bodily, mental, and intellectual activities, he is the only enjoyer of their result. The 5 sense objects and the 11 senses, including the mind, are his partial manifestation. He supplies all necessities of life, which are his energy, and thus not different from him. And he is the cause of everyone's bodily and mental prowess, which is also not different from him. Indeed, he is a husband and the provider of necessities for all living entities. The purpose of all the Vedas is to worship him. Therefore, let us all offer him our respectful obeisances. May he always be favorable toward us in this life and the next.
So this is actually the mantra. So if you look at the Sanskrit, it starts with Om Ram Reem Room Om Namo Bhagavate Rishikeshaya. Right, and so the Om Ram Reem Room Om Namo, that is the the seed of the mantra is in. So these words are used to basically invoke the spiritual aspect, right? So it's a long, a relatively long mantra, and it can be broken into, to understand it, we can break it into the components and understand it. So it's broken up into 12 parts. The mantra, the first Om Ram Reem Room Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, as I mentioned, this is Om Namo Bhagavate Rishikeshaya, is offering respects to Lord Rishikesh. Now, one may wonder that why does Lakshmi Devi have to offer such formality? As you know, as a wife, she has a certain amount of familiarity, but essentially, the Vishnu Chakravarti says that Lakshmi Devi offers respects to indicate that another worshipper should worship on the meaning of the mantra according to his own relationship with the Lord. Another person may chant this mantra meditating on himself or herself as the maid servant of Lakshmi Devi. Right. So he said this is the traditional way of approaching this mantra. And then Sarvaguna Visheshara Vilakshitatmane, which is the supreme master of all bodily, mental, and intellectual activities, He is the only enjoyer of their results, which is an elaboration of the word Rishikesh. Rishikesh is a controller of the senses. So this part of the mantra indicates that, O Lord Rishikesh, your mind, your body, your intelligence, they are all made special by spiritual qualities. Okay. Third part is akutinam chittanam chetasham visheshanam chapidyate. Right. So this translates to the master of the antakaranas and the master of the action and the knowledge senses. So the Lord's senses are all fully spiritual, but he's also the master of Visheshana, which is the all functions. He is the master of the functions of Akutinam. So Akutinam is the action senses. Then Chittinam. Chittinam is the knowledge senses. Then Chetesham, which is the mind. Chitta, Ahankar, and Buddhi. So this means that the Lord is the. So what does it mean that the Lord is the master? So for a devotee, what it means that the Lord is the relisher of these senses. That when somebody uses their action senses, their knowledge senses, their mind or their intelligence in the service of the Lord, so when a servant acts, then who takes the benefit of the activities of the servant? The master. So when it is said that Lord Rishikesh is the master of the senses, what it means is that he is the enjoyer of the fruits of these senses when they are used in devotional service. So when somebody uses their mind in the service of the Lord, then the Lord is enjoying the mind or the intelligence. Vishwanath Chakravarti says, even for the worshipper other than Lakshmi Devi, the ordinary sense devas are not indicated for their senses. Right? So one may say that Lakshmi Devi may chant this mantra because she has spiritual senses which are directly connected to the Lord. But for a conditioned soul, the senses are controlled by the demigods. So does this mantra still apply? So Vishnu Chakravarti says, yes, that the senses of even a practicing devotee, they are spiritualized to the extent that his practices are spiritualized, to the extent that his consciousness is specialized. And to that extent, the Lord becomes the enjoyer of the senses. So next part is Shodash Kalaya. So Shodash Kalaya Shodash is 16 attributes. So this is pointing to the 5 sense objects and the 11 senses, which includes the mind, right? The 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 working senses, and then the mind. So essentially, Lakshmi Devi is saying that these 16 attributes are your partial manifestation. So just like the moon has 16 phases before it becomes complete, the 16 parts can also be used to refer to the Lord who is complete. Next part is Chandamayaya, the enjoyer of ritualistic ceremonies. So the Lord in the form of the Vedas instructs about Bhakti himself. So ritualistic ceremonies here refers to like sadhana Vedi Bhakti that we do. It doesn't refer to Karma Kand. Refers to Sandhya Vandanam refers to deity worship, the ritualistic ceremonies that devotees do. Where are they coming from? They're coming from the Lord in the form of the Vedas. So the Lord is Chandamaya, and then after that he is Annamaya. So Annamaya is that he is the maintainer and the supplier of all the necessities of life. So for his devotee, the Lord supplies everything. He supplies the food, he maintains the body, he supports the life air. Now, Lakshmi Devi does not need it. She has a spiritual body. But she's also praying on behalf of others who are sadhakas, who still have a material body. They are sustained by all that is sustained by the Lord. So this is the Lord in the form of Annamaya. Next is Amritamaya. Amritamaya is one who awards eternal life. So the Lord in the form of nectar. So eternal life has two meanings. So Amrit has two meanings. One is eternal life, and the second is something that is very sweet and relishable. So the Lord is both. So he offers liberation, that is Amrit, in the form of eternal life, and he also offers sweetness in terms of his Naam, Roop, Gun, Leela. So they are all indescribably sweet. So in these two ways, the Lord is Amrit Mayaya. Then Sarvamayaya. Sarvamayaya means that the Lord is omnipresent, that he is present and he has many, many forms. Then Sahas. Sahas means powerful. That how powerful he is, that he supplies the strength to the body. So Sahasa, and the second is Ojas Balaya. So Sahasa is the power of the Lord, and where is the power going? Ojas Balaya, for the senses and for the body. So he enables the Chitta, the Ojas, and Balaya. So Chitta means he enables consciousness. Ojas means that he enables senses, and Balaya means that he enables the body. Then next is Kantaya. Kantaya is that he is the supreme husband or the master of all living entities. Right? So this is glorifying the Lord as the enjoyer of the sweetness of the senses. So this is Lakshmi Devi indicating her qualification to the Lord. Then Kamaya. Kamaya is one who supplies all necessities for the devotees. So Kamaya Namaste, Lakshmi Devi does not use the word Deva after Kam. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that it would be inappropriate for a wife to address the husband by the full name. So husband's name is Kamadev. So she does not say Kamadevaya, but she says Kamaya. And in doing so, she is glorifying him as one who supplies all necessities. So it's, in a way, it's saying that you supply strength to the body, you supply strength to the senses, you supply strength to the mind, you supply strength to one's devotion, and you supply everything. So it's like a catch-all. Anything that I may have missed, you supply everything. You know, the Lord is powerful, the Lord is kind, the Lord is great, the Lord is everything. So Kamaya is that and any other requirements that is there, the Lord supplies. And she ends the mantra by saying, by Namaste Ubayatra Bhuyat. May he always be favorable towards us in this life and next. Right? And Lakshmi Devi has no next life. But again, this prayer is also meant to be chanted. Vishnu Chakravarti says that she is saying it chanted by her followers. So, and there are those who follow Lakshmi Devi, but in the mood of a pure devotee. There are those who follow Lakshmi Devi in the mood of getting opulence. So they're more following her in the roop of Maya, in her expansion as Durga Devi. But those who follow her as a consort of Rishikesh, right? So they are uh, recommended to chant. So Prabhupada says that this verse offering respectful obeisances unto the Lord was composed by Rama, the goddess of fortune, and is full of spiritual power. Under the guidance of a spiritual master, everyone should chant this mantra and thus become a complete and perfect devotee of the Lord. One may chant this mantra for complete liberation from material bondage. And after liberation, one may continue to chant it while worshipping the Lord in Vaikuntha. All mantras, of course, are meant for this life and the next, as Krishna himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 9:14, Satatam krityanto mam yatantascha dradravata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories and endeavoring with great determination and bowing down before me, the great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. A devotee who both in this life and the next chants the Mool mantra or any mantra is known as Nitya Yukta Pashaka. Okay. So for us, the mantra is the Hare Krishna mantra. Okay. Let me pause over here and see if there's any discussion on the points we have discussed so far.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One quick question, Prabhuji. A very nice description. Firstly, thank you so much, Prabhuji, and for also restarting the class. And thank you. Prabhuji, you mentioned towards the end of explaining the mantra, because she just mentioned Kamaya, Lakshmi Devi. She did not mention Kamadev because it is inappropriate to speak the husband's name. So, like, so the concerts of the Lord are not permitted to chant the holy name of the Lord, Prabhuji, like because like Sita Devi, when in her absence, she was always remembering Lord Ram. So it was only internal remembrance, or they are outwardly never chant Rama or Krishna like that, like how we chant.
It's a good question. I think empirically we know based on what we see in the past times, like in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, we see the gopis, they're addressing Krishna by his name, even though they're not really concerts, they're more like so the question was, for the benefit of Facebook, question was that that if the concerts are not recommended to, or do not say the Lord's name out, because the relationship between a wife and a husband is of that of formality, then do they not chant the mantras that invoke the Lord? So the answer was giving is, I guess, a two-part answer. The first part is that we do see the Lord being addressed by different names by the concerts. In Vrindavan, I mean, they will address him as Krishna or Kana, etc. In Dwarka, they do address him, but through more formal names, like, O Prince of the Yadu dynasty, or O, son, by the more glorificatory attributes of the Lord. I mean, nevertheless, the names of the Lord. Whether the concerts avoid mantras that have the names of the Lord, don't know. I'm not sure. I think most of the concerts probably don't need to chant any mantras because they're already there with the Lord, right? So this mantra is by Lakshmi Devi is she's chanting it for our benefit. So a lot of the aspects of the mantra don't even apply to Lakshmi Devi, right? And she's talking about birth after birth. She's talking about Annamaya, taking care of sustenance. So they're really for for our benefit. Now, one may make this point that if she's sharing it for our benefit, she might as well, we have no problems in saying Kamadev, he's the Lord there. So it is what it is. It's the mood of the acharyas in extracting their realizations.
Yes, Prabhuji. And another part also you answered that they call, like Yashodanandan, that way also they can call. It is literally not calling name. So, yeah.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, there are names like Krishna. I mean, Yashodanandan is Krishna's name, and Nandanandan is Krishna's name. Like it said, like Krishna prefers those names.
Yes.
And he considers those as, so there is the Gauna name, there's a Mukhya Naam, so he considers those to be his principal names. But yeah, it's different from the names that Garg Muni gave him at the time of his Nama Samskar. Different from those.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think even in now, presently in the day, in Indian tradition, some wives, they don't call their husband by his name. They, I don't know, in India, I'm sure that there must be places like that. In some traditional family, the wife does not call the husband by his name.
I mean, you're right. And like you said, in traditional families, especially I think maybe in one generation before us, it was very unusual for the wives to address their husbands by the name. So they would address them in relationship to the children or something else. They would address them. Now it's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to verse 19. Striyo varate stvarishikeshwaram swato hayaradaya loke patima sasatinyam tasham nate vai prapantyapattyam priyam dhanayumsi yato swatantraha.
My dear Lord, you are certainly the fully independent master of all the senses. Therefore, all women who worship you by strictly observing vow because they wish to acquire a husband to satisfy their senses are surely under illusion. They do not know that such a husband cannot actually give protection to them or their children, nor can he protect their wealth and or duration of life, for he himself is dependent on time, productive result, and the modes of nature, which are all subordinate to you.
Subordinate to you. So So the previous mantra that Lakshmi Devi chanted was her realization as a pure devotee. And in this verse, she is, so to speak, she is lamenting about those who approach the Lord for material desires. Right? So therefore, all women who worship you by strictly observing vows because they wish to acquire a husband to satisfy their senses are surely under illusion. Because such a husband cannot give protection to them or their children. So the fact that they are approaching the Lord makes them devotees. But the fact that they are approaching the Lord for material desires makes them Mishra Bhaktas, specifically Kama Mishra Bhaktas. So Lakshmi Devi is saying that nobody other than Krishna can give you protection because nobody other than Krishna is infallible. Krishna is the only one that is infallible. Everyone else is fallible. So why seek shelter from anywhere else? So it's kind of like you go to a person who is a multi billionaire, and you go to that person and say that if you are so kind to me, can you introduce me to this person XYZ who happens to be a millionaire so that I can get some wealth from him. So this is the mood of one who's going to Krishna, and Krishna is the ultimate protector. And then you're saying to Krishna that please give me a good husband who is a fallible protector, temporary fallible, who's like a drop in front of Krishna. So Lakshmi Devi is saying that what kind of foolishness is this? So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that to become a husband means to maintain a wife and children nicely by supplying wealth and security. Right. So one of the meanings of husband is called pati, and pati means one who protects from all kinds of disturbance. So apati means different disturbances. Pati is one who is double negation, who takes away the apati, right? And so Prabhupada continues that a material husband cannot do this because he himself is dependent on his karma. So he is himself fallible. Karmana deva netrena. His circumstances are determined by his past fruitive activities. Right? So then what is the solution? Solution is that we have to have the desire to somehow or else take shelter of Krishna. So Prabhupada says, because we have the desire to marry, Krishna mercifully allows the so-called husband and the wife to possess a so-called husband for mutual satisfaction. He does not say so-called wife, right? He says so-called husband because this is from the perspective of Lakshmi Devi, from the perspective of a woman who is praying from protection. So protection for a pati, one who can protect. But Prabhupada is saying that he's only a so-called pati because he himself is full of apatis. He himself is full of vulnerabilities. In the Isopnishat, it is said, Tena taktena bhunchita. The Lord provides everyone with his quota. Actually, however, every living entity is Prakriti or female, and Krishna is the only husband. Ekale Ishvara Krishna arasab bhrate. Yare yache na chaye se tache karinitya. Krishna is the original master or husband of everyone, and all other living entities have taken the form of the so-called husbands or wives. They are dancing to his desire. A so-called husband may unite with his wife for sense gratification, but his senses are conducted by Rishikesh, the master of the senses, who is therefore the actual husband. Okay, moving on to the next verse, 20. Savae patisyada akuto bhayam swayam samantapati bhayata bhayaturam janam saeka evitratha mitho bhayam nevat malabad adi manyate param.
He alone, who is never afraid, but who, on the contrary, give complete shelter to all fearful person, can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband, and no one else can claim this position. If you were not the only husband, you would be afraid of others. Therefore, persons learn in all Vedic literatures accept only you, your lordship, as everyone master, and they think no one else a better husband and a protector than you.
So you notice over here in the second line of the verse, the word pati is explicitly used. Samantapati bhayaturam janam. So Lakshmi Devi is saying that the problem is that these women who are worshipping the Lord for a husband, they don't know the meaning of the word pati. How can a person who cannot protect himself protect others? So then one may say that what are the qualities of one who protects others? So Lakshmi Devi says that the first and foremost quality is that the person should be abhayam. The person should be free of fear. And only the Lord has that quality. Now the Lord may bestow that quality on others. So the devotees of the Lord, they also become abhayam more and more. The whole iron and fire analogy. But not a quality that they're getting on their own. It's the quality that is being bestowed by the Lord because the Lord has that quality. Everybody else is fearful of something or the other. So when the person is himself fearful, how can he protect others? There may be somebody more powerful, there may be somebody wealthier, somebody more dangerous. And even if the person is not fearful of all that, there is the time factor. That time is always instilling fear. And so uh, the Lakshmi Devi says that uh, itaratha. Itaratha is that because these women are misguided, they take another meaning of pati. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that itarata in the locative sense means in another case. So in another case, all leaders, protectors, and citizens have fear of each other. So either it means that itaratha means that because the women are misguided, they are taking protection elsewhere, or it means that there is one case that is the Lord who has no fear. In another case, there is everyone else who are like leaders and protectors and citizens, and they have constant fear of each other. So the citizens that they are protecting inherit the fear of the protector. So in effect, there is no protection. So those learned in the scriptures consider that there is no greater object than attaining the Lord. So Lakshmi Devi continues, she says, Atma Labat. So her conclusion is that those who are seeking protection anywhere else than Krishna are misguided, and the conclusion is that those who are learned in the scriptures, those who are in knowledge, who know, they conclude that the only goal in life should be attaining the Lord. Atma Labat. That is the most benefit that one can give to oneself. That there is only one person who is actually Pati, and that is the Lord. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says, Lord Krishna personally states in Bhagavad Gita, Aham stam sarv papebhyo mokshayami. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. So it's interesting that Prabhupada quotes this verse because sinful reactions are essentially the reactions that are given by the devas. Right? When one is doing karma kand, then one is doing pious, where is their piety coming from? The devas. If one is doing impious, where is that impiety coming? Also from devas. The devas bear witness. Yamraj is the person who gets the job of actually executing the punishment. Manu establishes a law. So it's the devas together who are giving punishment. So when Krishna says, Tvam sarva papebhyo, right? So he's saying that I can give you protection from all these so-called protectors. That they may try to punish you by giving you sinful reactions, or you may have already accrued sinful reactions. But if you surrender to me, then I'm giving you protection from all these other patis, so-called patis, because Krishna is the supreme pati. That all these patis are themselves seeking protection from Krishna. So Prabhupada continues to write that everyone is afraid of Krishna, but Krishna is not afraid of anyone. Therefore, he can actually give protection to a subordinate living entity. Since so-called leaders or dictators are completely under the control of material nature, they can never give protection. Then Prabhupada comes down one step even below, that there are people who basically seek protection from the so-called leaders or the so-called protectors, and they are even weaker than the devas. What protection can they give? Okay. Okay, so I'll end over here. We have a few minutes. Any concluding thoughts, comments?
That mean, I was thinking about Mirabai and all that, and even the sannyasis. The only shelter is Krishna. They don't want to have any husband or anybody to protect them. Just the Lord is a protector. That means they have achieved this is what these verbs are talking about.
Yeah. And taking shelter of the Lord does not mean rejecting all shelters, right? It does not mean that one who takes shelter of the Lord then starts disrespecting the demigods or disrespecting your husband or your leaders. It just means that you do not go there for shelter. You go to shelter to the Lord. Right? So one may see the other shelters for whatever they are worth, that they are temporary or limited. So you may see for whatever it is worth and seek shelter with the Lord. And we see that, as you were mentioning, in the life of great personalities. That Meera Devi and the six Goswamis, they were relying on the shelter of the Lord, but at the same time, they did not. It's not like Jiva Goswami went and picked a fight with Aurangzeb or started attacking people around him, saying you're false shelter. So they see it for what it is, but they put their faith in the ultimate shelter. Thank you for bringing up that point.
reaffirming who is a real shelter, no? To know
Reaffirming,
who is
absolutely.
a real shelter.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Hare Krishna. I'd just like to share something related to the Bhakti Vaibhava program. Everyone hearing me, please? I'm just wondering, my microphone is okay?
Yes, Prabhu, you're loud and clear.
Okay. Again, I'd like to really thank you so much for inspiring me from the inception, to go along with this Bhakti Vaibhava program. And I'd like to mention that based on all that we have gone through for so many years on the program, because we have not been doing ongoing assessment and like that, and just for resource material, to keep for myself, I had joined last February, not 2024, 2023 February, the Bhakti Vaibhava program in from Govardhan Eco Village by Gauranga Darshan. And he does a pretty intense program, and I think the class started with 300 candidates, many sannyasis, even Sachindan Swami, and so many are there. It was very, very challenging, but I just joined the class for the resource, because he provides so much notes and so much valuable material. I thought it'll just augment what we are doing here. But then it came up to exams. Every 10 chapters they do exams, and I thought, let me just go give a shot at the exams. And they're closed book exams, then they're multiple choice at 20 questions for each chapters, then they're open book assessment. Total, you have to write 20,000 words over the 6 cantos. So for the past year, they completed, or we completed, up to the 3rd canto. The 4th canto just started. And I was able to do well in all the exams. I have an average of A grade in in all the exams, because they give you the questions in advance. They give a question bank, and if you are able to answer the questions, then the same questions will come for the exam. They'll select from the question bank. So I thought it'll be good for all of us here, sort of like revision. That I could post the Bhakti Vaibhava handbook, which gives the questions, the open book questions and everything, and I could share my answers, from the 1st canto, of all the questions they give in the question bank. And when we have time, we can just go through it. It'll be sort of a a revision. And the other thing I'd like to ask of you is that whenever I reach that stage that I have to do the open book questions, then I'd like to ask if I could share those answers with you before I post them up. In the final analysis, also, you have to do what's called presentations, but the presentation is about half an hour, and you just record it. They give the topics, you record it, and you send it them for assessment. So it's an intense 2 years program, but I thought that I just go through with it. I was just going for the resources, but I want to mention again, it is your inspiration, with this course, that really, really encouraged me, to do that. I just wanted to share that with you. And if it's okay with all of you, I could share the handbook, the questions, and the answers, you know, for every 9 chapters. We finished, I finished 6 exams already, and we just started the fourth canto. And it's convenient for me because it's on Sunday morning. It is zoomed 4 p.m. From India, but it's like 6:30. It's an unworking day and everything, 6:30 to 8 every Saturday and Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paramatma Prabhu. And yeah, so I agree that the Govardhan Eco Village, it's a great program working towards certification. Matter of fact, even I am part of that. I'm also there as a student, and I'm kind of in the, I guess, in the opposite as what you are. I've completed everything other than the closed book exam. So I've completed all the open book exam, the essays, the presentations, etc. I think for me, 2 things remain: the closed book exams and the verses recitation. And then I ran out of time, so I kind of put it to a pause. And I think the second was I was awarded the Bhakti Vaibhava through the Teach and Learn program. So to some extent that mitigated my motivation. But it's definitely an excellent program, and I would encourage, if you can help the other devotees, by all means, if you want to share, I think it's a good idea. I think devotees benefit from each other's realization. So certainly, I think it's it's an excellent offer. And as I mentioned some times ago, that since I have the Bhakti Vaibhava degree, I'm also now authorized to award Bhakti Vaibhava degrees. So if any of you is interested in taking it to the next step, and essentially my plan was similar to what Paramatma Prabhu is saying, that I would share the material that is offered by Govardhan Eco Village and use that as an index to basically for the grading, etc. So long story short, yeah, I think Prabhu, I would encourage you to share, and if you want to inspire others by example, I think it's a great idea. Okay, thank you. So we'll end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhya Shripa Sindhubhe Vachavaditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanand. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.